Hello, bruv. Tomorrow has approached quicker than we thought. Cruel as the Grave by Eden Southworth continues. I'll try to finish out this chapter. Just didn't want it to end with half a page left and then have to do a second video at low volume. But the girl in the red cloak came not that night, no, nor even the next day, nor did any other mysterious visitor or unusual event disturb their repose or excite their curiosity. Late that night their faithful friend returned according to his promise. He told them that he had found his poor horse still in the thicket where he had left him, with water and grass in his reach. Then he had gone home in safety, where his absence had not excited any anxiety, because his sister had supported him to be at Blackhall. He then described the funeral of Rosa Blondell, which had taken place that day, and which had been attended not only by all the county gentry, who had gathered to show their respect and sympathy for the dead, but also by crowds of all sorts of people who came in curiosity to the scene. And then, taking advantage of a few minutes during which Sybil was engaged in her housekeeping corner of the chapel, he told Mr. Berners that the search warrants, having failed to find the fugitives, a rumor had been spread that they had certainly left the neighborhood on the morning of the murder, and that they had been seen in Alexandria by a gentleman who had just come from that city. This story, added Captain Pendleton, is so confidently reported and believed that an officer with a warrant has been this day dispatched to Annapolis. Oh, good heaven, how zealously her old neighbors do hunt my poor guiltless Sybil, groaned Mr. Berners. Take courage. This rumor, together with the journey of the officer to Annapolis, opens a way for your immediate escape. So I propose that you prepare to leave this place tomorrow night and take a beeline to Norfolk. There you must take the first outward-bound ship for Europe and remain abroad until you can with safely return home. At this moment, Sybil came up. Without mentioning to her the existence of the warrants which were out against her, and which was the only part of Captain Pendleton's communication that it was expedient to conceal from her, Lion Berners, with a smile of encouragement, told her that they were to leave the haunted chapel the next night to go to Norfolk. And we cannot even yet go home, sighed Sybil. No, dear wife, it would scarcely yet be prudent to do so. But we can go to Europe and travel over the continent and see the wonders of the old world, leaving our friend here with a power of attorney to manage our estate and collect our revenues and remit us money as we require it. We can stay abroad and enjoy ourselves until such time as justice shall be done, and we can return to our home not only with safety but in triumph, replied Lion Berners cheerfully. Sybil too caught the infection of his cheerful manner, whether that were real or assumed, as she too brightened up. The friends then discussed the details of the projected flight. In the first place, began Captain Pendleton, you must both be so well disguised as to seem the opposite of yourselves in rank, age, and personal appearance. You, Lion, must shave off your auburn beard and cut close your auburn hair, and you must put on a gray wig and a gray beard, those worn by your old Peter in his character of Polonius at your mask ball will, with a little trimming, serve your purpose. Then you must wear a pair of spectacles and a broad-brimmed hat and an old man's loose-fitting, shabby traveling suit. I can procure both the spectacles and clothes from the wardrobe of my deceased father. Mrs. Berners, too, should cut her hair short and wear a red wig and a plain dress. The wig you wore as Harold the Saxon will suit very well, with a little arrangement. Then I can procure the dress for my sister. You must travel as a poor old farmer, and your wife must go as your red-headed, illiterate daughter. You are both excellent actors, and can sustain your parts very well, bruv. Dear me, said Sybil, half crying, half smiling, I have been warned that it is never well to begin any enterprise of which one does not know the end, and I am sure when I undertook to give a masked ball and take a character in it, I had not the slightest idea that the masquerade would last longer than a night, or that I should have to continue to act a character. Never mind, darling. It is but for a season. Go on, Pendleton. You seem to have settled everything in your own mind for us. Let us hear the rest of your plan, said Mr. Berners. It is this, continued the captain. I will bring 3 disguises to you tomorrow night. I will also have a covered cart, loaded with turnips, potatoes, apples, and so forth. I will have this cart driven by your faithful Joe down to the Blackville ferry boat, in which, of course, he can cross the river with his load of produce, unsuspected and unquestioned. Or even if some inquisitive gossip should ask him where he might be going, Joe would be ready with his safe answer. He can beat us in baffling inquiry, put in Sybil. Like all his race, laughed Lion. Ha ha ha. The chance you have mentioned is provided for. Joe is instructed to answer any haphazard questionnaire that he is bringing the load to me, which will be the truth. But proceed, dear Pendleton. Develop your whole plan, urged Mr. Berners. Well, then, once safe on this side of the river, Joe will drive the cart to some convenient spot, to which I myself will guide you. Ah, how much trouble you take for us, Pendleton, sighed Lion. Not at all. As far as I'm concerned, it is a piquant adventure. Try to look at it in that light. To our subject. When you reach the cart, you can put your wife inside, and then mount the driver's seat and start upon your journey like a plain old farmer going to market to sell his produce. As you will have but the 1 pair of horses for the whole journey, you will see the necessity of making very short stages in order to enable them to complete it. Certainly. And now listen, because you must make these short stages and frequent stoppages, because you must avoid the most traveled roads, it will be necessary for you to take a map of the state and follow the most direct route to Norfolk, which is not the turnpike road used by the small stagecoaches, for that diverges frequently 5 or 10 miles to the right or left of the line to take in the populous villages, put in Lion Berners. Yes, I see you comprehend me. Well, I should further advise you, when you reach Norfolk, to put up some obscure inn near the wharves, and to embark in the very first ship that sails for Europe, even if it should set sail within an hour after your arrival. You may rest assured that we shall not loiter in Norfolk, said Mr. Berners. As for the draft horses and cart, if you have time, you can sell them. If not, you can leave them at the livery stable, and on the day of sailing, post me a letter containing an order to receive them. You can think of everything, dear Pendleton. I can't think of anything else just now, replied Captain Pendleton. Well, then, we will have some supper, said Sybil, rising to prepare it. I declare I never in all my life supped out so frequently as I have done since you two have been housekeeping in this old haunted chapel. And by the way, talking of that, have you seen any more apparitions, any more spectral gypsy girls, or shrouded forms, or shadowy coffins, or open vaults? Eh, Mr. Berners? Laughingly inquired Captain Pendleton. No, nothing unusual has disturbed us, either last night or today. But now, talking of open vaults, have you brought the crowbar to force the door, sir? Said Sybil, turning sharply to the captain. Yes, dear, Mrs. Berners. Since I promised to bring it, I felt bound to do so, though I hope you will not really have it put to use. Just as soon as supper is over, I will have that door forced open. I will see what that mysterious vault holds, said Sybil firmly, and she almost kept her word. As soon as they had finished the evening meal, she arose and called upon the gentleman to go with her and forced the door of the vault, and they went and inserted the crowbar between the grating and the stonework, and wrenched with all their united strength, but their efforts availed nothing, even to move the door. They gave over their exertions to recover their breath, and when they had got it, they began again with renewed vigor, but with no better success. Again they stopped to breathe, and again they recommenced the task with all their might, but after working as hard as they could for 15 minutes longer, they again ceased from sheer exhaustion, leaving the door as fast as they had found it. It is of no use to try longer, Sybil. We cannot force it, said Mr. Berners. I see that you cannot. The vault keeps its secrets well, she answered solemnly. And then they returned to their seats near the fire and sat and talked over the projected journey until it was time for Captain Pendleton to go. When the husband and wife were left alone, they felt themselves tired enough to go to rest, with a prospect of getting a good night's sleep. "This is the last night that we shall spend in this place, dear Sybil," said Lion Burners, as he put the smoldering brands together to keep the fire up till morning. Sybil replied with a deep yawn, and in a few minutes they laid down to rest, and in a very few more they fell asleep. How long they had slept, Sybil had no means of knowing. When she awakened by an impression that some cold, damp creature had laid down on the front of the mattress close beside her, she opened her eyes and strained them around in a vague dread. But the inside of the chapel was dark as pitch. The fire had gone entirely out. She could not even see the outlines of the Gothic windows. All was black as Tartarus, but still, oh horror, she felt the cold, damp form pressing close beside her. A speechless, breathless awe possessed her. She could not scream, but she cautiously put out her hand to make sure whether she was dreaming, when horror upon horror, it touched the clammy face. Still, she did not cry out, for some potent spell seemed to bind her, which at once tied her tongue and moved her hand. For that hand passed down over the slender form and straight limbs, and then up again until it reached the still bosom, when, climax of horror, it was caught and clasped in the clay-cold hand of the what? That commences chapter 28. Until next time, ghostly and mysterious, we return. Goodbye. Goodbye.